Clean this mess properly this time, Maria. Your incompetence is becoming embarrassing. Victoria Ashford's voice echoed through the marble foyer as she gestured dismissively at the spotless floor I had just finished mopping. Standing beside her, her son Alexander nodded in agreement while adjusting his designer tie, preparing for another day at his father's corporate empire. What the Ashford family did not realize as they treated me like disposable help was that in exactly 72 hours, I would be sitting across from them in their father's boardroom as the newly appointed regional director of operations, his daughter, returning home after 15 years to claim my rightful place in the company they thought they owned. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The morning of October 15th began like every other day in the Ashford mansion, with me arriving at 5:30 to prepare breakfast for a family that had never bothered to learn my last name. As I arranged fresh orchids in the crystal vase on their dining table, I listened to the familiar sound of expensive heels clicking against Italian marble, announcing Victoria's descent from the master suite. Victoria Ashford represented everything I had learned to navigate carefully during my 2 years working in their household. Tall, perfectly groomed, and perpetually dissatisfied, she moved through her daily routine with the casual cruelty of someone who had never questioned her position in the world's hierarchy. Her blonde hair was always styled to perfection, her clothing exclusively designer, and her treatment of household staff consistently dismissive. "The coffee was bitter yesterday," she announced without greeting, settling into her chair at the head of the mahogany dining table. "I assume you can manage to improve today, or do we need to discuss finding someone more competent?" I maintained my professional composure while serving her Colombian coffee in bone china, the same way I had perfected it during my years managing operations at boutique hotels across Europe. "Of course, Mrs. Ashford, I apologize for any inconvenience." Alexander appeared moments later, straightening his Armani jacket while scrolling through messages on his phone. At 28, he embodied the casual entitlement that comes from inherited wealth and unearned position. His dark hair was styled with expensive product, his skin maintained through professional treatments, and his attitude shaped by never having faced genuine consequences for his actions. "Mother, did you remember to tell Maria about the dinner party tomorrow? We cannot afford any mistakes with father's business associates attending." He spoke about me as if I were not standing 3 feet away, a habit the family had developed that revealed far more about their character than mine. "Of course, darling. Though I worry about trusting something so important to." Victoria paused, her eyes scanning me with the same expression she might reserve for evaluating a piece of furniture. "Well, we shall see if she can manage something beyond basic cleaning." Charlotte, their 19-year-old daughter, made her entrance with the dramatic flair she had perfected during her first year at an expensive private college. Her auburn hair cascaded in carefully maintained waves, her outfit selected to communicate both privilege and rebellion, and her demeanor crafted to ensure maximum attention from everyone present. "Why does she always look so serious?" Charlotte asked, gesturing toward me while addressing her mother. "It is like having a storm cloud hovering around the house. Can we not find someone more cheerful?" Quote. The casual cruelty of their conversation was not unusual, but something about this particular morning felt different. Perhaps it was the letter I had received 3 days earlier, informing me that my transition period was ending and my new role would begin the following Monday. Or perhaps it was the realization that after 2 years of careful observation, I finally understood exactly who the Ashford family truly was beneath their polished exterior. "Maria, ensure the silver is properly polished for tomorrow evening," Victoria continued, her tone suggesting she was conferring a great honor. "And please try to remember that presentation matters when father's colleagues are present. Their opinion of our household reflects directly on our family's reputation." I nodded respectfully while mentally cataloging this conversation, alongside dozens of others that had revealed the family's complete dependence on their father's business success and their total ignorance of how that success was actually generated. They lived in luxury while remaining utterly disconnected from the strategic decisions and operational excellence that funded their lifestyle. The Ashford family inhabited a world of inherited expectations and assumed permanence. built around the success of Ashford Industries, a multinational corporation specializing in luxury hospitality and commercial real estate development. Their mansion in the exclusive Beacon Hill neighborhood of Boston served as both home and symbol of their position within the city's established elite. Richard Ashford, the family patriarch, had built his empire through strategic acquisitions and operational innovations that transformed struggling properties into profitable enterprises. However, his success had created an unexpected consequence. His family had grown so accustomed to luxury that they had lost any understanding of the work required to maintain it. Victoria spent her days managing social calendars and charity committee positions that enhanced her status, but contributed nothing to the family's financial foundation. Alexander held a nominal position within Ashford Industries, but his responsibilities were largely ceremonial, designed to prepare him for eventual leadership, without requiring actual competence or accountability. Charlotte pursued her studies in art history while maintaining an active social media presence that showcased her privileged lifestyle to thousands of followers who envied her seemingly effortless access to luxury experiences and designer fashion. None of them understood that their comfortable existence depended entirely on the continued success of a business empire that required constant strategic attention and operational excellence to remain competitive in an increasingly challenging market. During my 2 years in their household, I had observed family dinners where business topics were discussed with the casual superficiality of people who knew the terminology but not the substance. I had witnessed conversations about quarterly results and market expansion that revealed their fundamental misunderstanding of the challenges facing modern hospitality and real estate development. They spoke about the business as if it were a reliable machine that automatically generated the income necessary to support their lifestyle, rather than a complex enterprise requiring continuous innovation and strategic adaptation to changing market conditions. What the Ashford family could not have known was that my presence in their household was neither accidental nor permanent. My name was Maria Elizabeth Ashford Santos, and I was the daughter Richard Ashford had never publicly acknowledged, raised by my mother Elena Santos in Madrid after a brief but significant relationship that had produced a child he was not prepared to claim. My mother had been a brilliant hospitality executive, working for a European consortium, when she met Richard during his expansion into the Spanish market 26 years earlier. Their relationship had been intense but complicated by the business pressures and cultural differences that ultimately made a permanent union impossible. When I was born, Richard had made financial arrangements to ensure my education and support, but he had chosen to maintain distance from my daily life to avoid complications with his established family in Boston. My mother had agreed to this arrangement, believing it would provide me with opportunities while protecting me from the pressures of being publicly associated with his business empire. Growing up in Madrid, I had received the finest education available, including private tutoring in languages, business strategy, and international relations. My mother had ensured that I understood my heritage while building my own identity and capabilities independent of my father's name and resources. I had earned my bachelor's degree in international business from IE Business School, followed by a master's degree in hospitality management from the prestigious Les Roches in Switzerland. My academic achievements had been supplemented by internships at luxury hotels across Europe, where I had developed expertise in operations management, customer experience design, and strategic planning. For 8 years following my graduation, I had built a successful career managing boutique properties and developing operational strategies for hospitality groups across Spain, France, and Switzerland. My reputation had grown steadily within European hospitality circles, where I was known for my ability to transform underperforming properties into profitable enterprises through innovative approaches to service delivery and operational efficiency. The invitation to join Ashford Industries had come 18 months earlier, delivered through corporate channels without reference to my personal connection to the company's founder. Richard had finally decided that the business required fresh perspective and proven expertise to navigate increasingly complex market challenges. However, he had also made a decision that would prove crucial to understanding his family's true character. He had arranged for me to spend 2 years working anonymously within his household, before revealing my identity and assuming my role within the company. Richard's decision to place me within his family's household had been presented as an opportunity to understand American business culture and family dynamics before assuming significant responsibilities within Ashford Industries. However, I had gradually realized that his true motivation was more complex and more concerning. During our initial conversations conducted through secure communication channels, Richard had expressed growing concerns about his family's preparedness to maintain the business empire he had built. He had begun to question whether their assumptions about inherited success and automatic succession reflected the reality of modern business competition. "I need to understand who they truly are when they believe no one of consequence is watching," he had explained during one of our carefully arranged meetings in neutral locations. "And I need you to understand what you will be working with when you assume leadership responsibilities." The arrangement had provided me with an unprecedented opportunity to observe the family's decision-making processes, their treatment of people they considered beneath their notice, and their understanding of the business that supported their lifestyle. However, it had also required me to endure 2 years of casual dismissal and systematic underestimation. Every morning, I had prepared meals for people who spoke about their superiority while demonstrating their complete dependence on others for basic life management. Every evening, I had cleaned spaces where they had discussed business strategies that revealed their fundamental misunderstanding of market realities and competitive pressures. I had listened to Victoria plan social events that cost more than most families' annual income while complaining about the incompetence of people whose work made her lifestyle possible. I had watched Alexander practice presentations for board meetings, where he would propose strategies based on outdated assumptions and superficial analysis. Most significantly, I had observed Charlotte develop attitudes about class and privilege that would make her a liability in any serious business environment, where success depends on recognizing talent and capability, regardless of social background or economic status. The Ashford family's treatment of household staff followed patterns that revealed deep-seated beliefs about human worth and social hierarchy. They had created an environment where people were valued solely based on their perceived utility and social position, rather than their intelligence, capability, or potential contribution. Victoria consistently addressed me with the tone reserved for addressing children or pets, using simple language and explicit instructions for tasks that required significant skill and judgment. She had never acknowledged that maintaining their household to their exacting standards required expertise in menu planning, inventory management, vendor coordination, and quality control that exceeded the complexity of many business operations. "Maria, when you dust the library, please be careful around the books. Some of them are quite valuable, though I suppose you would not understand their significance," she had said on numerous occasions, apparently unaware that I had read most of their collection during my off hours and could have provided detailed analysis of their historical and literary importance. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Alexander's approach was characterized by casual dismissal, combined with periodic attempts to establish his authority through unnecessary corrections and demands for information he could have obtained more efficiently through other means. He seemed to derive satisfaction from demonstrating his position in the household hierarchy through interactions that served no practical purpose beyond establishing dominance. "Maria, I will need my blue suit pressed for tomorrow's meeting. Please ensure it is perfect, as I will be representing the family's interests in important negotiations," he would announce, apparently believing that his clothing selection required explanation or that I needed motivation to perform work I had been executing flawlessly for 2 years. Charlotte's behavior was perhaps the most revealing, as she had developed habits of casual cruelty that seemed designed to establish her superiority through the diminishment of others. She would leave deliberate messes while commenting on the challenges of finding good help or make requests for services immediately after I had completed similar tasks, apparently for the satisfaction of asserting her authority. "Oh, Maria, I forgot to mention that I spilled something in my room yesterday. I hope you can manage to clean it properly, as the carpet was quite expensive," she would say with false sweetness, knowing that any damage would be attributed to my negligence rather than her carelessness. As my observation period continued, I had begun to recognize that the Ashford family's behavior was not merely unpleasant, but strategically dangerous for their long-term security. Their attitudes and assumptions were creating vulnerabilities that could threaten their position within both their social circle and their business environment. Victoria's social activities, while maintaining her status within Boston's elite circles, were consuming increasing amounts of family resources while contributing nothing to the business success that funded her lifestyle. Her charity work, though generating positive publicity, reflected a fundamental misunderstanding of philanthropy as social positioning rather than genuine community contribution. Alexander's preparation for business leadership was proceeding without any meaningful exposure to the operational realities or strategic challenges that would determine his success or failure. His confidence was built on assumptions about inherited authority rather than demonstrated competence, creating a dangerous gap between his self-perception and his actual capabilities. Charlotte's development was perhaps the most concerning, as she was acquiring attitudes and expectations that would make her unemployable in any environment that required collaboration, respect for others, or recognition of merit-based achievement. Her social media presence was creating a public record of privilege and entitlement that could become a liability for the family's reputation. Most significantly, their collective ignorance about the business that supported their lifestyle was creating strategic risks that could threaten the entire foundation of their security. They had no understanding of market pressures, competitive threats, or operational challenges that required immediate attention and strategic response. During family dinners, I had heard conversations about business decisions that revealed their complete disconnection from industry realities. They discussed expansion opportunities without understanding market saturation, evaluated personnel decisions based on personal preference rather than professional competence, and approached strategic planning with assumptions that had not been valid for years. Their casual discussions about the help and their automatic assumptions about social hierarchy suggested that they would be unable to recognize talent, build effective teams, or maintain the operational excellence that distinguish successful businesses from failing enterprises. 3 days before the morning that would change everything, I had received the letter that officially ended my observation period and confirmed my transition to the executive role I had been preparing for throughout my career. Richard had decided that the time for anonymity was ending and that his family needed to confront the reality of their situation. The letter had been brief but comprehensive, outlining my new responsibilities as Regional Director of Operations and confirming my authority over all aspects of the company's East Coast hospitality portfolio. More importantly, it had established the timeline for revealing my identity to his family and integrating me into the corporate leadership structure they had assumed would automatically belong to them. Maria, I trust that your observations have provided valuable insights into the challenges we will face in preparing the next generation for leadership responsibilities, Richard had written. I also hope that your experience has strengthened your resolve to ensure that our company continues to operate according to principles of merit, excellence, and respect for all contributors to our success. The letter had included detailed information about my new office, my reporting relationships, and my immediate priorities for addressing operational challenges that had been accumulating while the family focused on social activities and superficial business concerns. However, it had also contained instructions that would make the revelation particularly impactful. Your first executive meeting will be held in the family conference room at 10 o'clock on Monday morning. Victoria, Alexander, and Charlotte have been instructed to attend what they believe will be a routine discussion about household management and family scheduling. They have no knowledge of your actual identity or role within the company. As I had prepared for this transition, I had reflected on the broader implications of what I had learned during my time in their household. The experience had provided me with unprecedented insight into the dangers of inherited privilege, the importance of recognizing capability regardless of social position, and the strategic vulnerabilities that develop when success is taken for granted, rather than continuously earned. However, it had also reinforced my commitment to ensuring that Ashford Industries would continue to operate according to principles that valued contribution over position, competence over connections, and respect for all team members regardless of their role or background. The morning of October 15th, as I served coffee to people who had spent 2 years treating me as invisible, I had known that I was experiencing the final moments of a carefully orchestrated lesson in human character and business vulnerability. In 72 hours, the assumptions that had guided their behavior would be permanently shattered, and they would be forced to confront the reality of their situation. But more importantly, I would have the opportunity to demonstrate that success belongs to those who earn it through competence, dedication, and respect for others, rather than those who expect it through inheritance and entitlement. The transformation was about to begin, and everyone involved would discover who they truly were when their fundamental assumptions about power, worth, and authority were completely overturned. The journey that had brought me to the Ashford Mansion began 26 years earlier in a Madrid boardroom, where my mother, Elena Santos, was presenting operational strategies to expand luxury hospitality services across the Iberian Peninsula. Elena represented everything that the European hospitality industry valued: analytical precision, cultural sophistication, and an intuitive understanding of how exceptional service creates lasting customer loyalty. Richard Ashford had arrived in Madrid as part of his first international expansion initiative, seeking partnerships that would establish Ashford Industries as a global presence, rather than merely a successful American enterprise. The collaboration between Elena's strategic expertise and Richard's capital resources had produced extraordinary results, transforming underperforming properties into flagship destinations that redefined luxury standards across Spanish markets. However, their professional partnership had evolved into something more complex and ultimately more vulnerable to the pressures that accompany international business relationships. The cultural differences that enhanced their professional collaboration created personal challenges that neither had anticipated when their working relationship began developing emotional dimensions. Elena had grown up in Seville, where her family had operated boutique hotels for 3 generations. Her understanding of hospitality extended beyond operational efficiency to encompass the cultural elements that transform accommodation into memorable experiences. She possessed the rare combination of business acumen and aesthetic sensibility that distinguishes truly exceptional service providers from merely competent ones. Richard had been drawn to Elena's approach to business challenges, which combined analytical rigor with creative solutions that consistently exceeded client expectations. Her presentations demonstrated not only comprehensive understanding of market dynamics but also innovative strategies for creating competitive advantages through operational excellence and customer experience design. Their collaboration had produced remarkable success across Spanish markets, establishing Ashford Industries as the preferred partner for luxury property development and management throughout the region. However, the intensity of their professional relationship had created personal connections that neither had intended but both had found difficult to resist. When Elena discovered she was pregnant, the implications for both their personal relationship and their business partnership had required careful consideration of priorities that ultimately proved incompatible. Richard's established family obligations in Boston and Elena's deep roots in Spanish culture made a permanent union impossible, despite their mutual respect and genuine affection. The decision they had reached reflected the practical realities of international business and family obligations, rather than any lack of commitment to my welfare. Richard had agreed to provide comprehensive financial support for my education and development, while Elena had accepted responsibility for my daily upbringing and cultural formation within the Spanish environment she understood most completely. My childhood in Madrid had been characterized by educational opportunities that prepared me for international business leadership, while maintaining strong connections to Spanish culture and values. Elena had selected my schools and extracurricular activities with strategic precision, ensuring that I developed both the academic credentials and cultural sophistication necessary for success in global business environments. The International School of Madrid had provided me with a multilingual education that established fluency in Spanish, English, French, and German before my 15th birthday. However, the academic curriculum had been supplemented by cultural experiences that developed my understanding of how different societies approach business relationships, customer service, and organizational leadership. Weekend trips to museums and cultural sites across Spain had taught me to appreciate the historical context that shapes contemporary business practices. Summer programs in France and Switzerland had exposed me to different approaches to luxury service and operational excellence. Winter holidays spent visiting family friends who operated successful businesses across Europe had provided practical insights into how cultural differences create both opportunities and challenges for international enterprises. Elena had also arranged for private tutoring in subjects that would prove crucial for business leadership, but were not adequately covered in traditional academic programs. I had received instruction in financial analysis, strategic planning, negotiation techniques, and organizational psychology from professors and consultants who worked with major European corporations. However, perhaps the most valuable aspect of my education had been Elena's insistence that I understand the dignity and complexity of every role within successful organizations. She had arranged for me to spend summers working in various positions at hotels owned by family friends, where I had learned operations from the ground level rather than through theoretical study. I had worked as a housekeeper, learning the physical demands and attention to detail required to maintain luxury standards. I had served as a concierge assistant, developing understanding of how exceptional customer service requires both comprehensive knowledge and genuine empathy for guest needs. I had spent time in kitchen operations, discovering how culinary excellence depends on coordination, timing, and respect for every contributor to the final product. These experiences had taught me that organizational success depends on recognizing and valuing the contribution of every team member, regardless of their position within formal hierarchies. They had also provided me with practical knowledge of how luxury service actually functions, rather than merely how it appears to customers who experience only the final results. My university education had been selected to provide the theoretical foundation necessary for strategic leadership, while building upon the practical experience I had gained through Elena's carefully designed exposure to real business operations. IE Business School in Madrid had offered a challenging international program that attracted students from around the world and maintained rigorous academic standards. The International Bachelor in Business Administration had required mastery of economic theory, financial analysis, marketing strategy, and organizational behavior within a multicultural environment that simulated the complexity of global business operations. However, the program had also emphasized practical application through consulting projects with actual companies facing real strategic challenges. During my sophomore year, I had led a team that developed operational improvements for a struggling hotel chain in Barcelona, implementing systems that increased occupancy rates by 37% while reducing operational costs by 22%. The success of this project had established my reputation within academic circles and attracted attention from hospitality industry professionals across Europe. My junior year had included a semester abroad at the London School of Economics, where I had studied international finance and European Union business regulation. This experience had provided crucial understanding of how regulatory environments shape business strategy, and how successful companies adapt their operations to comply with different legal frameworks while maintaining competitive advantages. The capstone project for my bachelor's degree had involved developing a comprehensive business plan for expanding Spanish hospitality companies into Latin American markets. The research had required analysis of cultural differences, regulatory requirements, currency considerations, and operational challenges that would determine success or failure in international expansion initiatives. My master's degree in international hospitality management at La Roche had represented the culmination of my academic preparation for leadership within the global hospitality industry. The program had attracted students who were already working in luxury hospitality environments, creating a learning community that combined theoretical study with practical experience from some of the world's most prestigious properties. The curriculum had covered advanced topics including revenue management, strategic brand development, crisis management, and sustainable business practices. However, the program had also provided extensive practical experience through internships at luxury properties across Switzerland, France, and Italy, where I had worked alongside industry leaders who had built their careers through exceptional performance and continuous innovation. My master's thesis had examined how cultural authenticity enhances customer loyalty in luxury hospitality environments, based on research conducted at properties across Spain, Switzerland, and France. The findings had challenged conventional assumptions about standardization versus localization in international hospitality operations, providing insights that had influenced strategic decisions at several major hospitality companies. Following my graduation from Les Roches, I had built a successful career managing boutique properties across Europe, focusing on establishments that prioritized exceptional service and cultural authenticity over standardized efficiency. My first position had been as assistant operations manager at a historic hotel in Seville, where I had implemented systems that improved guest satisfaction scores while reducing operational costs. The property had been struggling with declining occupancy rates and increasing competition from larger chain hotels that offered lower prices but less personalized service. My analysis had identified opportunities to enhance the guest experience through staff training, service customization, and strategic partnerships with local cultural attractions and dining establishments. Within 18 months, the hotel had achieved the highest guest satisfaction ratings in its market segment, while increasing profitability by 43%. The success had attracted attention from hospitality industry publications and had established my reputation as someone who could generate exceptional results through innovative approaches to traditional operational challenges. My second position had been as operations manager for a luxury resort in the French Alps, where I had overseen all aspects of guest services, staff management, and facility operations during peak skiing seasons. The role had required coordination of complex logistics involving seasonal staffing, weather-dependent activities, and high-expectation clientele from around the world. The challenge had been particularly complex because the resort attracted guests who expected both luxury accommodations and authentic alpine experiences. My solution had involved partnerships with local artisans, cultural organizations, and outdoor activity providers that created unique experiences while supporting the regional economy and maintaining cultural authenticity. The resort had achieved record profitability during my tenure, while receiving recognition from international travel publications for exceptional service and cultural integration. The success had demonstrated my ability to balance commercial objectives with cultural sensitivity and community responsibility. My third position had been as regional manager for a boutique hotel group, operating properties across Spain and Portugal. The role had involved strategic oversight of 6 properties, each with distinct character and market positioning. The challenge had been maintaining brand consistency while preserving the individual identity that distinguished each property from standardized chain competitors. I had developed operational standards that ensured consistent service quality, while allowing each property to express its unique cultural context and architectural heritage. The approach had required extensive staff training, customized service protocols, and strategic marketing that highlighted both shared brand values and individual property characteristics. During my 3 years in this role, the hotel group had expanded from 6 to 12 properties while maintaining the highest customer satisfaction ratings in their market segments. The success had attracted acquisition interest from major international hospitality companies, validating the strategic approach I had developed for balancing consistency with authenticity. The initial contact from Ashford Industries had arrived through conventional business channels, presented as a strategic consulting opportunity rather than a family reunion. Richard had arranged for the invitation to be extended through industry contacts who were unaware of our personal connection, ensuring that my consideration of the opportunity would be based on professional rather than emotional factors. The position description had outlined responsibilities for developing operational strategies to enhance performance across Ashford Industries' East Coast hospitality portfolio. The properties included historic hotels in Boston, luxury resorts along the Maine coast, and urban boutique establishments in New York and Philadelphia that were struggling to maintain competitive advantages in increasingly challenging markets. The challenge had been immediately appealing because it represented an opportunity to apply European approaches to operational excellence within American market contexts that offered different regulatory environments, customer expectations, and competitive dynamics. The scope of responsibility had also been substantially larger than my previous roles, involving properties with combined annual revenues exceeding $200 million. However, the most intriguing aspect of the opportunity had been Richard's indirect communication about his concerns regarding family preparation for business leadership. His carefully worded inquiries about organizational development and succession planning had suggested that he was questioning whether his children possessed the knowledge and character necessary to maintain the business empire he had built. Our initial meeting had been arranged in London, where Richard was attending an international real estate conference, and I was visiting potential partners for hotel group expansion initiatives. The conversation had lasted 4 hours and had covered business strategy, family dynamics, and the challenges facing family-owned enterprises in competitive global markets. Richard had explained that his children had grown up with advantages that had insulated them from understanding the work required to generate those advantages. He had expressed concern that their assumptions about inherited success were creating vulnerabilities that could threaten the long-term sustainability of Ashford Industries. However, he had also revealed that he had been following my career development through industry contacts and publications, taking pride in my achievements while respecting the boundaries Elena had established regarding his involvement in my upbringing. He had collected articles about my successful projects and had received reports about my reputation from business leaders who had worked with me across Europe. The proposal he had presented was complex and unprecedented. He had wanted me to spend 2 years working anonymously within his household before assuming executive responsibilities within Ashford Industries. The arrangement would provide me with intimate understanding of his family's character while allowing him to observe their behavior when they believed no one of consequence was watching. The decision to accept Richard's unusual proposal had required careful consideration of both professional opportunities and personal implications. The executive position at Ashford Industries represented a significant advancement in responsibility and compensation, with the potential to establish my reputation within American hospitality markets and create opportunities for future entrepreneurial ventures. However, the requirement to work anonymously as household staff presented challenges that extended beyond mere inconvenience. I would be accepting systematic dismissal and casual cruelty from people who shared my genetic heritage but had no knowledge of my identity or achievements. The psychological demands of maintaining professional composure while enduring such treatment would require emotional discipline that I had never previously needed to develop. Elena had provided crucial guidance during my decision-making process, drawing upon her experience with complex family dynamics and international business relationships. She had emphasized that the opportunity represented not merely professional advancement, but also the chance to understand and potentially influence the character development of family members whose attitudes and behaviors would affect the business legacy that Richard was hoping to preserve. She had also pointed out that the experience would provide me with unprecedented insight into how privilege and entitlement shape decision-making processes and interpersonal relationships. This understanding would prove invaluable for leadership roles that required managing diverse teams and building organizational cultures that recognize and develop talent regardless of social background or economic status. The decision had ultimately been influenced by my recognition that the experience would test and strengthen character qualities that are essential for effective leadership, but difficult to develop through conventional career progression. The ability to maintain dignity and purpose while enduring systematic underestimation would demonstrate resilience and emotional intelligence that distinguish exceptional leaders from merely competent managers. I had also been motivated by the opportunity to gather information that could help prevent the destruction of a business empire that employed thousands of people and supported countless families through direct employment and vendor relationships. If Richard's children were indeed as unprepared for leadership as he suspected, their eventual assumption of control could threaten the economic security of everyone who depended on Ashford Industries for their livelihood. The transition from successful hospitality executive to anonymous household staff had required careful preparation that extended far beyond learning domestic skills. I had needed to develop a completely different public persona while maintaining the internal strength and strategic thinking that would be necessary for eventual emergence as a business leader. The first challenge had been acquiring the practical skills necessary to perform household duties to the exacting standards that wealthy families expect from domestic staff. While my hotel experience had provided understanding of luxury service standards, managing a private household required different techniques and attention to details that are invisible to most property guests. I had spent 6 weeks training with Elena's cousin Carmen, who managed households for wealthy families in Madrid, and had developed expertise in the specific skills required for maintaining luxury private residences. Carmen had taught me advanced techniques for cleaning delicate fabrics, maintaining valuable artwork, preparing formal dinners, and coordinating complex schedules, while remaining diplomatically invisible. However, the more challenging preparation had involved developing the psychological strategies necessary to maintain composure and dignity, while accepting treatment that contradicted everything I knew about my actual capabilities and achievements. I had worked with Elena to develop mental frameworks that would allow me to separate my true identity from the role I would be performing. The approach we had developed involved treating the experience as an extended consulting assignment where my objective was gathering information rather than seeking approval or recognition. I would focus on observing and documenting family dynamics, decision-making processes, and attitudes toward business operations, while viewing their dismissive treatment as evidence of their character rather than reflection of my worth. Elena had also helped me establish communication protocols that would allow me to maintain connection with my professional network and continue developing strategic thinking skills despite the limitations of my public role. I had arranged for regular consultations with former colleagues who believed I was taking an extended sabbatical to explore American business culture before launching my own consultancy. These conversations would provide intellectual stimulation while allowing me to process observations about American family dynamics and business practices. They would also ensure that my strategic thinking abilities remained sharp throughout the period when I would have no opportunity to apply them publicly. My arrival at the Ashford Mansion had marked the beginning of the most challenging and revealing period of my professional development. The initial weeks had been particularly difficult, as I adjusted to the enormous gap between my actual capabilities and the assumptions that guided family interactions with household staff. The training period had revealed the extent to which the Ashford family had become accustomed to having their needs anticipated and fulfilled, without any awareness of the complexity involved in managing their lifestyle. They had developed expectations that would have been impossible to meet without exceptional organizational skills and attention to detail. Yet they attributed successful outcomes to their superior standards rather than staff competence. Victoria's approach to household management had reflected her complete disconnection from the practical realities of maintaining the luxury environment she demanded. Her instructions were often contradictory or physically impossible, requiring me to develop diplomatic strategies for implementing solutions while allowing her to maintain the illusion that her guidance had been responsible for successful outcomes. Alexander's interactions had revealed his fundamental insecurity about his own competence, which he attempted to mask through assertions of authority over people he perceived as powerless to challenge him. His requests for services were often unnecessary and seemed designed primarily to establish his position within household hierarchies, rather than accomplish any practical objective. Charlotte's behavior had been perhaps the most revealing, as she had developed habits of casual cruelty that appeared to provide her with entertainment and validation. Her deliberate creation of unnecessary work and her comments about staff competence suggested that she derived satisfaction from demonstrating her power over people who could not respond without risking their employment. However, the most disturbing aspect of my early experiences had been recognizing how completely the family had insulated themselves from understanding the business operations that funded their lifestyle. Their conversations about Ashford Industries had revealed fundamental misunderstanding of market pressures, competitive challenges, and operational requirements that successful businesses must address continuously. They had discussed strategic decisions with the casual confidence of people who had never faced genuine consequences for poor judgment. They had evaluated employee performance based on personal preference rather than professional competence. They had approached business planning with assumptions that had not been accurate for years and showed no awareness of how rapidly their industry was changing. The realization that these individuals expected to inherit leadership of a complex international business had strengthened my resolve to complete the observation period and assume the responsibilities that would prevent their ignorance from destroying the enterprise that supported thousands of families. The foundation had been established for a transformation that would challenge every assumption about worth, capability, and leadership that the Ashford family had developed throughout their privileged lives. The establishment of my role within the Ashford household had proceeded with the methodical precision that characterizes all successful deceptions. Within the first month of my employment, the family had developed behavioral patterns that revealed fundamental assumptions about social hierarchy, human worth, and the relationship between economic position and intellectual capability. These patterns would prove crucial to understanding the strategic vulnerabilities that threatened their business empire. Victoria Ashford had emerged as the primary architect of household dynamics, establishing protocols that reinforced her position at the apex of domestic authority, while ensuring that all staff members understood their subordinate status through daily interactions designed to emphasize social distance. Her approach to household management reflected sophisticated understanding of psychological manipulation, combined with complete ignorance of the professional competence required to execute her demands effectively. The morning routine she had established required my presence in the kitchen by 5:30 each day to prepare breakfast service that met specifications she had developed through years of experience at luxury hotels and private clubs. However, her instructions consistently demonstrated that she understood only the final presentation rather than the complex coordination required to achieve consistent results under varying circumstances. Her preference for freshly prepared Colombian coffee required sourcing specific beans from a specialty roaster in Cambridge, coordinating delivery schedules that accommodated her unpredictable breakfast timing, and maintaining brewing equipment that demanded technical expertise she assumed was automatic. Her expectation for perfectly arranged fresh flowers required knowledge of seasonal availability, vendor relationships, and preservation techniques that extended far beyond simple aesthetic arrangement. The formal dinner parties she hosted monthly represented the culmination of her domestic authority, requiring coordination of catering services, household staff, and social protocols that created seamless entertainment experiences for guests whose business relationships directly influenced Ashford Industries' strategic opportunities. However, her planning approach revealed complete disconnection from the operational complexity required to execute her vision successfully. Her instructions for these events typically consisted of broad directives about desired outcomes, without acknowledgement of the resource coordination, timing management, and quality control systems necessary to achieve consistent excellence. She would announce that she expected flawless execution, while providing guidance that was often contradictory, incomplete, or based on assumptions that had no relationship to practical reality. The most revealing aspect of Victoria's management style was her consistent attribution of successful outcomes to her superior planning and oversight, while treating any operational challenges as evidence of staff incompetence rather than inadequate resource allocation or unrealistic timeline expectations. This pattern demonstrated a fundamental inability to distinguish between strategic vision and operational execution that would prove catastrophic if applied to business management. Alexander Ashford's interactions with household staff had established him as someone who derived psychological satisfaction from demonstrating authority over people he perceived as powerless to challenge his directives. His behavior patterns revealed deep-seated insecurity about his actual competence, combined with entitled expectations about deference, that reflected his complete inexperience with environments where respect must be earned rather than assumed. His daily routine included regular interactions with household staff that served no practical purpose beyond establishing his position within domestic hierarchies. He would request services that could have been obtained more efficiently through other means, apparently for the satisfaction of issuing commands and observing compliance from people who depended on their employment for financial security. These interactions consistently demonstrated his fundamental misunderstanding of how effective leadership actually functions within professional environments. His approach to authority relied exclusively on positional power rather than demonstrated competence, creating dynamics that would prove utterly ineffective within business contexts, where results depend on voluntary cooperation and innovative thinking rather than fearful compliance. His preparation for eventual business leadership had been conducted entirely within the insulated environment of family privilege, where his opinions were treated with respect regardless of their analytical foundation, and his directives were implemented without challenge regardless of their practical merit. This experience had created expectations about professional relationships that bore no resemblance to the competitive realities of modern business operations. The conversations I had overheard between Alexander and his business school classmates had revealed his complete disconnection from the performance standards that determine success within competitive professional environments. His academic performance had been adequate but unexceptional, maintained through access to resources and support systems that would not be available within business contexts, where individual competence determines career progression. His understanding of Ashford Industries' strategic position had been derived primarily from family conversations that emphasized their market leadership, while ignoring the operational challenges and competitive pressures that required continuous attention and innovative responses. His confidence about eventual succession was based on inheritance expectations rather than demonstrated ability to generate results under pressure. The most concerning aspect of Alexander's character development was his apparent inability to recognize competence or valuable contribution from people whose social position he considered inferior to his own. This blindness represented a fundamental leadership liability that could prevent him from building effective teams or identifying talent within organizational environments, where success depends on maximizing human potential regardless of background or social status. His interactions with household staff had established patterns of dismissive treatment that reflected automatic assumptions about the relationship between economic position and intellectual capability. He consistently addressed staff members with the tone and language typically reserved for addressing children, apparently believing that employment in service roles indicated limited intelligence or professional potential. These assumptions had created a dynamic where he was surrounded by people who possessed skills and knowledge that could benefit his development, but his prejudices prevented him from recognizing or accessing these resources. The irony was particularly acute because his future success would depend entirely on his ability to identify and develop talent within organizational environments, where the most valuable contributors might not occupy the most prestigious positions. Charlotte Ashford's behavior toward household staff had revealed the most disturbing aspects of privilege without responsibility, combining casual cruelty with performance-oriented social consciousness that treated ethical positions as aesthetic choices rather than principled commitments. Her approach to staff interactions demonstrated sophisticated understanding of psychological manipulation while maintaining plausible deniability about deliberate harm. Her daily routine included regular creation of unnecessary work through deliberate carelessness that appeared accidental but followed patterns too consistent to be coincidental. She would spill beverages in locations that required extensive cleaning, leave personal items in arrangements that created hazards for other household members, and make requests for services immediately after similar tasks had been completed by other staff members. These behaviors seemed designed to establish her authority through the demonstration of power over people who could not respond without risking their employment security. However, they also revealed a fundamental character flaw that would prove catastrophic within professional environments where success depends on collaborative relationships and mutual respect among team members. Her social media presence had established her as an advocate for various social justice causes, with regular posts about income inequality, workplace exploitation, and the importance of treating service workers with dignity and respect. The contradiction between her public positions and her private behavior represented a level of hypocrisy that suggested profound disconnection from authentic moral reasoning. Her Instagram account featured carefully curated images that portrayed her as someone who appreciated cultural diversity, supported local businesses, and maintained friendships across different social backgrounds. However, these presentations were entirely performative, designed to generate positive social feedback rather than reflect genuine values or commitments to equitable treatment of others. The disparity between her online persona and her actual behavior had provided crucial insight into how social media platforms could create false impressions about character and values that bore no relationship to real-world decision-making or interpersonal relationships. This understanding would prove valuable for evaluating potential business partners and employees whose public presentations might conceal fundamental character flaws. Her academic performance at her prestigious private college had been maintained through access to resources and support systems that compensated for limited intrinsic motivation or intellectual curiosity. Her course selection had focused on subjects that required minimal analytical rigor while providing credentials that would enhance her social status and career prospects. Her approach to education reflected the same pattern of seeking benefits without accepting corresponding responsibilities that characterized her treatment of household staff. She expected excellent outcomes without investing the effort required to develop genuine competence, creating expectations about professional success that had no foundation in demonstrated capability or work ethic. The most troubling aspect of Charlotte's character development was her apparent enjoyment of situations where she could demonstrate power over people who were constrained from defending themselves. This tendency suggested psychological patterns that would make her unsuitable for leadership roles requiring ethical decision-making or responsibility for employee welfare within competitive business environments. The family's evening discussions about Ashford Industries had provided unprecedented insight into their collective understanding of the business operations that supported their lifestyle. These conversations had revealed fundamental misunderstanding of market dynamics, competitive pressures, and operational requirements that distinguished successful enterprises from failing businesses. Victoria's contributions to business discussions had consistently focused on social and aesthetic considerations, while ignoring financial performance or strategic positioning. Her suggestions for property improvements typically emphasized features that would enhance her personal enjoyment or social status, rather than elements that would attract customers or improve operational efficiency. Her understanding of hospitality industry trends had been derived primarily from her experiences as a consumer of luxury services, rather than analysis of business fundamentals. She would propose investments in amenities or services based on her personal preferences without consideration of cost-benefit analysis or market demand assessment. Her approach to personnel decisions had been based entirely on social compatibility and personal loyalty rather than professional competence or performance metrics. She consistently advocated for hiring and promotion decisions that would enhance her comfort within the organization, while ignoring the impact of these choices on operational effectiveness or competitive positioning. Alexander's business insights had demonstrated complete disconnection from the operational realities that determine success within competitive hospitality markets. His strategic recommendations had been based on theoretical frameworks learned during business school courses, rather than practical understanding of implementation challenges or resource constraints. His analysis of competitive threats had focused on superficial elements such as marketing presentations or facility aesthetics, while ignoring fundamental factors such as operational efficiency, customer service quality, or financial performance metrics. His confidence about market positioning had been based on assumptions about brand reputation, rather than objective assessment of customer satisfaction or market share data. His personnel management philosophy had emphasized hierarchy and formal authority, rather than collaborative leadership or performance-based recognition systems. His expectations about employee loyalty and dedication had been based on traditional models of employer-employee relationships that bore no resemblance to contemporary workforce dynamics or professional development expectations. Charlotte's participation in business discussions had been limited but revealing, focusing primarily on social media marketing strategies and brand positioning among younger demographics. However, her suggestions had demonstrated complete misunderstanding of how authentic brand values must be supported by actual business practices, rather than merely promoted through advertising campaigns. Her recommendations for attracting younger customers had emphasized superficial aesthetic changes and social media presence, while ignoring the service quality and operational excellence that actually determine customer loyalty and positive word-of-mouth marketing within competitive markets. Her understanding of employee relations had been based on her observation of carefully managed public interactions, rather than awareness of the workplace culture and management practices that determine employee satisfaction and performance quality. Her suggestions for improving staff morale had focused on cosmetic changes, rather than addressing fundamental issues related to compensation, professional development, or respectful treatment. The family's casual discussions about household expenses and business investments had revealed profound disconnection from the financial realities that constrained most business operations and determined long-term sustainability. Their approach to resource allocation had been based on immediate preferences rather than strategic analysis of return on investment or competitive positioning requirements. Victoria's approach to household budgeting had treated financial resources as unlimited, while simultaneously complaining about the costs associated with maintaining their lifestyle standards. Her spending decisions had been based on social expectations and personal desires rather than consideration of financial sustainability or opportunity costs associated with resource allocation choices. Her understanding of business investment principles had been limited to aesthetic and social considerations while ignoring fundamental financial metrics such as revenue generation potential, operational cost implications, or competitive positioning benefits. Her advocacy for specific projects had been based on personal preferences rather than objective analysis of business benefits. Alexander's financial analysis capabilities had been adequate for academic exercises, but completely inadequate for real-world business decision-making that required consideration of multiple variables and uncertain outcomes. His investment recommendations had been based on simplified models that ignored the complexity and risk factors that characterize actual business environments. His understanding of cash flow management had been theoretical rather than practical, based on textbook examples rather than experience with the operational challenges that determine financial sustainability within competitive markets. His confidence about financial projections had been based on optimistic assumptions, rather than realistic assessment of market conditions and implementation challenges. Charlotte's relationship with money had been characterized by complete disconnection from earning requirements or resource constraints. Her spending patterns had reflected expectations about unlimited availability of financial resources combined with no understanding of the work required to generate those resources through successful business operations. Her suggestions for business improvements had consistently required significant financial investments without corresponding analysis of revenue generation potential or competitive advantages that would justify the expenditure. Her approach to resource allocation had been based on immediate gratification, rather than strategic planning or long-term sustainability considerations. After 18 months of observation, clear patterns had emerged that revealed the fundamental character traits and decision-making processes that would determine the family's suitability for business leadership. These patterns had provided crucial insight into the strategic vulnerabilities that threatened Ashford Industries' long-term sustainability and competitive positioning. The family's collective approach to problem-solving had been characterized by immediate focus on superficial symptoms rather than systematic analysis of underlying causes or structural issues. Their solutions had typically involved spending money or delegating responsibility, rather than developing innovative approaches or implementing systematic improvements. Their personnel management philosophy had been based on social hierarchy and personal loyalty, rather than professional competence and performance metrics. Their expectations about employee dedication and performance had been based on traditional authority relationships, rather than contemporary understanding of motivation and professional development. Their customer service philosophy had been based on their personal preferences and social expectations, rather than systematic analysis of customer needs and market positioning requirements. Their approach to service quality had emphasized aesthetic presentation rather than operational excellence or customer satisfaction measurement. Their financial management approach had been based on historical precedent and family tradition, rather than contemporary analysis of market conditions and competitive pressures. Their investment decisions had been based on personal preferences rather than strategic analysis of return on investment or competitive positioning benefits. The most concerning pattern had been their complete inability to recognize competence or valuable contribution from people whose social position they considered inferior to their own. This blindness represented a fundamental leadership liability that would prevent them from building effective teams or maximizing organizational potential within competitive business environments. Their treatment of household staff had demonstrated automatic assumptions about the relationship between social position and intellectual capability that would prove catastrophic within business contexts where success depends on identifying and developing talent regardless of background or credentials. Their inability to recognize the professional expertise required to manage their lifestyle successfully had revealed complete disconnection from operational realities. The accumulation of these observations had strengthened my resolve to assume the leadership responsibilities that would prevent their ignorance and prejudices from destroying the business enterprise that supported thousands of families through direct employment and vendor relationships. The transformation that awaited them would challenge every assumption about worth, authority, and competence that had guided their behavior throughout their privileged lives. However, the most important outcome of this observation period had been the development of strategic insights that would guide my approach to organizational leadership when the time came to emerge from anonymity. The experience had provided unprecedented understanding of how privilege without responsibility creates character flaws that threaten both individual development and organizational effectiveness. This knowledge would prove invaluable for creating management systems that recognize and develop potential regardless of social background, while ensuring that leadership positions are occupied by individuals who possess the character traits and professional competencies necessary for success within competitive business environments. The Ashford family's social and professional circle had provided crucial context for understanding the broader system of privilege and assumption that enabled their dysfunctional approach to leadership and human relationships. Through careful observation of their interactions with friends, business associates, and service providers, I had gained comprehensive insight into how systematic underestimation functions within established social hierarchies and professional networks. Dr. Margaret Whitmore represented the apex of the family's social aspirations, serving as both personal physician and social arbiter for Boston's established elite families. Her medical practice catered exclusively to wealthy clients who valued discretion and personal attention over clinical excellence or innovative treatment approaches. Her relationship with the Ashford family illustrated how professional competence becomes secondary to social compatibility within insulated privileged circles. Victoria's monthly appointments with Dr. Whitmore served primarily social rather than medical functions, providing opportunities to discuss family developments and social positioning within the context of confidential medical consultations. These interactions had revealed Victoria's deep insecurity about maintaining her status within competitive social hierarchies, where wealth alone was insufficient to guarantee acceptance or respect. Dr. Whitmore's approach to patient care emphasized comfort and reassurance rather than accurate diagnosis or challenging treatment recommendations. Her medical advice consistently reinforced her patients' existing preferences, while avoiding difficult conversations about lifestyle changes or health risks that might create discomfort or require behavioral modifications. Her willingness to accommodate the family's scheduling preferences and social requirements had established her as an enabler of their entitled expectations rather than a professional advocate for their health and well-being. Her approach to medical practice provided a template for understanding how service providers within privileged circles often compromise professional standards to maintain lucrative client relationships. However, Dr. Whitmore's interactions with household staff during her visits had revealed her complete adoption of the family's assumptions about social hierarchy and human worth. She consistently treated staff members as invisible or incompetent, despite their obvious professionalism and attention to detail in accommodating her complex scheduling requirements and special requests. Her medical training and professional experience should have provided her with understanding of human dignity and the importance of respectful treatment, regardless of social position. Instead, her behavior demonstrated how proximity to wealth and privilege can corrupt professional judgment and ethical reasoning, leading educated individuals to abandon fundamental principles of human respect. The most revealing aspect of Dr. Whitmore's character was her complete failure to recognize the professional competence required to manage the complex household operations that accommodated her visits. Her casual dismissal of staff capabilities while simultaneously depending on their expertise illustrated the cognitive dissonance that characterizes many privilege-adjacent professionals who benefit from systematic inequality while maintaining their moral superiority. Jonathan Pemberton served as the family's primary legal advisor, representing Ashford Industries in various corporate matters while maintaining personal relationships that blurred professional and social boundaries. His law practice specialized in serving established Boston families whose business interests required discreet handling of complex financial and legal arrangements. Pemberton's approach to legal representation emphasized client comfort and preference over rigorous legal analysis or challenging recommendations that might create conflict or require difficult decisions. His advice consistently reinforced the family's existing assumptions, while avoiding thorough examination of potential risks or alternative strategies that might prove more effective but less palatable. His presence at family dinner parties and social events had provided opportunities to observe how professional advisors can become captured by client preferences, rather than maintaining independent judgment based on expertise and ethical responsibility. His legal recommendations appeared to be shaped more by his desire to maintain social relationships than by objective analysis of legal requirements or strategic considerations. The conversations I had overheard between Pemberton and Alexander about succession planning had revealed fundamental misunderstanding of contemporary corporate governance requirements and fiduciary responsibilities. Their discussions had assumed that family preference would automatically translate into legal authority without consideration of shareholder interests or regulatory compliance requirements. Pemberton's failure to provide accurate legal guidance about corporate succession and governance had created dangerous vulnerabilities that could expose Ashford Industries to significant legal and financial risks. His willingness to accommodate family assumptions rather than enforce legal realities represented professional negligence disguised as client service. However, the most troubling aspect of Pemberton's professional conduct was his complete acceptance of the family's treatment of employees and service providers as evidence of appropriate social hierarchy, rather than potential legal liability. His presence during interactions that could constitute workplace harassment or discrimination suggested either professional incompetence or deliberate disregard for legal obligations. His legal training should have provided him with understanding of employment law and corporate liability issues that could arise from the family's management approach. Instead, his behavior suggested that social compatibility had completely supplanted professional judgment in his relationship with the Ashford family. Charles Morrison served as the family's financial advisor, managing investment portfolios and providing guidance about wealth preservation strategies that would maintain their lifestyle while protecting their assets from market volatility or economic uncertainty. His financial services firm specialized in serving high-net-worth families whose investment needs emphasized stability over growth or innovation. Morrison's investment philosophy reflected conservative approaches that prioritized capital preservation over performance optimization, creating portfolios that generated steady returns while avoiding the risks associated with emerging markets or innovative investment strategies. His recommendations consistently reinforced the family's preference for traditional investment approaches while avoiding challenging discussions about diversification or risk management. His quarterly meetings with the family had provided opportunities to observe how financial advisors can enable client complacency rather than challenging them to adapt investment strategies to changing economic conditions or demographic trends. His presentations emphasized positive outcomes while minimizing discussion of potential risks or strategic alternatives that might require more active portfolio management. The financial projections Morrison provided had consistently reinforced the family's assumptions about long-term wealth sustainability, without accounting for changing market conditions or competitive pressures that could affect Ashford Industries' ability to generate consistent returns. His analysis appeared designed to maintain client comfort rather than provide accurate assessment of financial realities. Morrison's approach to financial planning had failed to address fundamental questions about the relationship between business performance and family wealth, creating unrealistic expectations about automatic wealth transfer without corresponding business leadership competence. His willingness to ignore these issues had contributed to the family's dangerous complacency about succession planning. Elena Rodriguez had served as the Ashford family's head housekeeper for 12 years, developing comprehensive understanding of their preferences and expectations, while maintaining professional standards that enabled their lifestyle to function smoothly despite their limited awareness of operational complexity. Her experience provided crucial insight into how competent professionals adapt to working within dysfunctional management environments. Elena's approach to household management demonstrated sophisticated understanding of family psychology combined with exceptional organizational skills that compensated for Victoria's inadequate planning and contradictory instructions. Her ability to anticipate problems and implement solutions without creating conflict had made her indispensable while rendering her contributions nearly invisible to family members. Her professional background included hotel management experience and formal training in hospitality operations, qualifications that far exceeded the requirements for household management, but were never acknowledged or utilized by family members who viewed domestic service as unskilled labor. Her educational achievements and professional competence remained unknown to employers who had never inquired about her background or career development interests. Elena's treatment by family members illustrated how systematic underestimation prevents organizations from maximizing human potential and developing talent that could contribute to improved performance and innovation. Her capabilities represented untapped resources that could have enhanced household operations while providing professional development opportunities that would benefit both employee and employer. However, Elena's loyalty to the family appeared to be based primarily on economic necessity rather than personal affection or professional satisfaction. Her careful maintenance of professional boundaries and diplomatic responses to unreasonable demands suggested strategic management of a difficult employment situation rather than genuine commitment to family welfare. Her interactions with me had been characterized by cautious professionalism that gradually evolved into mutual respect as she recognized my competence and work ethic. Our conversations had revealed her awareness of family dysfunction and her strategic approach to managing employment relationships that provided financial security while minimizing personal vulnerability to their capricious behavior. Elena's assessment of family character had been remarkably accurate, based on years of observation and experience with their decision-making patterns. Her insights about their business acumen and leadership potential had aligned closely with my own observations while providing historical context that enhanced understanding of behavioral patterns and relationship dynamics. James Patterson served as the family's driver and security coordinator, responsible for transportation logistics and basic security arrangements that enabled their social and business activities while maintaining their safety and privacy. His military background and professional training provided skills that were vastly underutilized within his current role. Patterson's service record included multiple overseas deployments and specialized training in logistics coordination and security operations that would have qualified him for senior positions within corporate security or operations management. His tactical knowledge and strategic thinking abilities represented resources that could have enhanced business operations if properly recognized and developed. His interactions with family members demonstrated patient professionalism despite their consistent failure to acknowledge his expertise or experience. His recommendations about security protocols and travel logistics were routinely ignored or modified based on convenience rather than safety considerations, revealing their casual disregard for professional judgment. Patterson's observations about family vulnerability and security risks had been comprehensive and accurate, based on professional training and experience that enabled him to identify potential threats and operational weaknesses that escaped family attention. His unheeded warnings about various security concerns illustrated their dangerous assumption that wealth provided automatic protection from consequences. His assessment of family character had been shaped by years of observing their behavior under various circumstances, including stressful situations that revealed their true priorities and decision-making processes. His insights about their crisis management capabilities and leadership potential had provided valuable perspective about their suitability for business responsibility. Bradford Sterling represented the type of family friend whose relationship with the Ashfords illustrated how social competition and status anxiety shaped behavior within their elite circle. His inherited wealth and social position created both friendship and rivalry dynamics that influenced family decision-making and strategic planning in ways that often contradicted business logic. Sterling's approach to wealth management and business operations provided constant comparison points that affected family perceptions of their own success and strategic positioning. His investment choices and lifestyle decisions created pressure for the Ashfords to maintain competitive social standing through spending and business decisions that prioritized appearance over performance. His business ventures included several failed enterprises that had been sustained through family wealth rather than operational success, creating unrealistic expectations about the relationship between social position and business competence. His casual dismissal of market forces and competitive pressures had reinforced similar attitudes within the Ashford family. Sterling's treatment of service providers and employees demonstrated the same patterns of automatic assumption and casual dismissal that characterized the Ashford family's approach to human relationships. His behavior provided social validation for their treatment of household staff, while normalizing attitudes that would prove catastrophic within competitive business environments. Priscilla Hartwell represented the female social dynamics that influenced Victoria's approach to status competition and lifestyle management. Her success within charitable organizations and social institutions provided models that emphasized appearance and social connections over substantive achievement or professional competence. Hartwell's charitable activities had generated significant social recognition while contributing minimal actual benefit to stated causes, illustrating how social positioning could be achieved through performative activities rather than meaningful work. Her approach to philanthropy had influenced Victoria's similar activities and reinforced prioritization of social recognition over operational effectiveness. Her business interests included several lifestyle companies that catered to wealthy women seeking luxury services and exclusive experiences. These enterprises operated successfully within protected market segments, where social connections and exclusivity compensated for limited operational innovation or competitive advantages. Hartwell's management philosophy emphasized social harmony and personal loyalty over performance accountability or strategic planning, creating organizational cultures that functioned adequately within non-competitive environments, but would fail rapidly when exposed to market pressures or operational challenges. Marcus Webb served as the family's interior designer and aesthetic consultant, responsible for maintaining the visual presentation of their properties and social spaces according to evolving style trends and social expectations. His professional relationship with the family illustrated how creative professionals navigate client relationships that require balancing artistic integrity with commercial necessity. Webb's design expertise included comprehensive understanding of historical architectural elements and contemporary aesthetic trends that enabled him to create sophisticated interior environments that reflected both classical elegance and modern functionality. His artistic training and professional experience represented creative resources that were underutilized due to family preferences for conventional approaches. His interactions with family members demonstrated diplomatic skills that enabled him to implement professional recommendations while accommodating client preferences that often contradicted design principles or practical considerations. His ability to manage creative disagreements without creating conflict had made him valuable while limiting his influence over strategic design decisions. Webb's observations about family taste and decision-making processes had provided insight into their approach to aesthetic choices and resource allocation that reflected broader patterns of preference over analysis. His professional assessment of their design sensibilities had revealed limited understanding of how environmental factors influence productivity and well-being. Catherine Sullivan managed the family's catering and event planning requirements, coordinating complex social and business entertainments that required extensive logistical planning and vendor coordination. Her hospitality background included hotel management experience that provided professional capabilities far exceeding typical event planning requirements. Sullivan's approach to event management demonstrated systematic understanding of operational coordination, combined with creative problem-solving abilities that enabled successful execution of complex entertainment requirements within challenging time constraints and budget parameters. Her professional competence had made family events successful while receiving minimal recognition for strategic planning and crisis management skills. Her interactions with family members illustrated how creative professionals must navigate client relationships that require accommodation of unrealistic expectations while maintaining professional standards that ensure successful outcomes. Her diplomatic management of family demands had prevented numerous potential disasters while building organizational capabilities that exceeded their understanding. The collective picture that emerged from observing these supporting relationships was one of systematic waste of human potential, combined with dangerous dependence on professional competence that was neither recognized nor properly valued. The family's approach to managing relationships with service providers created vulnerabilities that extended beyond household operations to encompass business strategy and organizational development. The pattern of taking professional competence for granted while simultaneously dismissing the intelligence and capabilities of service providers represented a fundamental management philosophy that would prove catastrophic when applied to business operations requiring innovation, adaptation, and competitive performance. The transformation that awaited them would challenge every assumption about human worth and professional capability that had guided their approach to organizational relationships throughout their privileged lives. The evening of September 28 marked the culmination of 22 months of careful observation and strategic analysis. The family had hosted their annual autumn reception for Ashford Industries board members and key investors, an event that traditionally served as both social celebration and informal business assessment opportunity. The gathering had provided unprecedented access to conversations that revealed the true scope of dysfunction, threatening the company's future stability and competitive positioning. The reception had been held in the mansion's grand ballroom, where Victoria had orchestrated an elaborate presentation designed to demonstrate the family's social sophistication and cultural refinement to business associates, whose investment decisions would determine Ashford Industries' access to capital markets and strategic partnership opportunities. The event had required 3 weeks of preparation and coordination, involving multiple service providers and household staff working under unrealistic timelines and contradictory instructions. During the final preparation phase, I had observed Victoria's approach to crisis management, when several critical elements of her planning proved inadequate for the complexity of the actual event requirements. Her response to operational challenges had revealed fundamental character traits that would prove catastrophic if applied to business crisis management or strategic problem-solving under competitive pressure. When the primary catering vendor had informed her that menu modifications would be impossible within the established timeline, Victoria had responded with accusations about professional incompetence, rather than collaborative problem-solving or alternative strategy development. Her assumption that vendor compliance could be achieved through intimidation and social pressure had demonstrated complete misunderstanding of professional service relationships and operational realities. When floral arrangements had arrived in configurations that differed from her specifications, Victoria had demanded immediate corrections without consideration of resource constraints or logistical complexity. Her expectation that aesthetic perfection could be achieved through directive authority rather than collaborative planning had revealed dangerous assumptions about management effectiveness and organizational coordination. When household staff had identified potential safety concerns related to guest traffic flow and emergency access, Victoria had dismissed these recommendations as unnecessary interference with her social vision. Her prioritization of aesthetic presentation over operational safety had demonstrated casual disregard for professional judgment and regulatory compliance that would create enormous liability exposure within business environments. The most revealing aspect of Victoria's crisis management approach had been her complete failure to acknowledge the professional competence required to resolve operational challenges, while simultaneously depending entirely on that competence for successful event execution. Her ability to take credit for positive outcomes while attributing problems to staff incompetence had illustrated fundamental character flaws that would prove devastating within competitive business environments requiring accountability and collaborative leadership. Alexander's role during the preparation process had provided crucial insight into his approach to operational responsibility and crisis management under pressure. His contributions had consisted primarily of criticism and directive authority, without corresponding knowledge of implementation requirements or resource coordination challenges. His interactions with service providers had demonstrated complete disconnection from operational realities, combined with entitled expectations about automatic compliance with his preferences, regardless of practical constraints or professional expertise. His assumption that management authority consisted entirely of issuing directives without understanding execution requirements had revealed fundamental unsuitability for business leadership within competitive environments. His response to logistical challenges had been to delegate responsibility while maintaining oversight authority that created additional coordination complexity without contributing problem-solving capability or strategic value. His management philosophy appeared to be based on avoiding personal accountability while claiming credit for successful outcomes achieved through other people's competence and effort. The conversations I had overheard between Alexander and board members during the reception had revealed his complete misunderstanding of contemporary business challenges, and his dangerous overconfidence about his ability to assume leadership responsibilities without developing corresponding capabilities or experience. The reception had attracted 12 board members and senior advisors whose investment decisions and strategic guidance would determine Ashford Industries' competitive positioning and long-term sustainability within rapidly evolving hospitality markets. Their conversations had provided unprecedented insight into their growing concerns about family leadership capabilities and succession planning adequacy. Robert Henley, the lead independent director, had served on Ashford Industries' board for 8 years and possessed comprehensive understanding of hospitality industry trends and competitive dynamics. His background included executive leadership positions at major hotel chains and strategic consulting roles that had provided expertise in operational excellence and market positioning strategies. Henley's private conversations with other board members had revealed serious concerns about the family's preparedness for leadership transition and their understanding of strategic challenges facing the hospitality industry. His assessment of Alexander's business acumen had been diplomatically negative, emphasizing the gap between his confidence and his demonstrated capabilities. His analysis of company performance had identified operational inefficiencies and strategic vulnerabilities that required immediate attention and innovative solutions. His recommendations for addressing these challenges had emphasized the need for professional management expertise and systematic operational improvements that would require leadership capabilities the family had not demonstrated. Henley's concerns extended beyond operational performance to encompass governance issues and fiduciary responsibilities that would become critical during leadership transition. His assessment of family decision-making processes had identified patterns of preference-based choices rather than analysis-driven strategies that would prove inadequate for competitive business environments. Patricia Chen, the chief financial officer of a major hospitality investment fund, had provided external perspective about Ashford Industries' market positioning and competitive performance relative to industry benchmarks and emerging market trends. Her analysis had revealed declining performance metrics and strategic positioning challenges that required immediate strategic response. Chen's assessment of company financial management had identified concerning trends in operational efficiency and revenue optimization that suggested systematic management problems rather than temporary market challenges. Her recommendations for performance improvement had emphasized the need for leadership capabilities focused on operational excellence and strategic innovation. Her conversations with other board members had revealed growing investor concerns about management succession and family leadership capabilities. Her professional assessment had concluded that continued family control without corresponding professional competence development would threaten investment returns and competitive positioning. Chen's analysis of market trends had identified strategic opportunities that would require innovative management approaches and operational capabilities that exceeded the family's demonstrated expertise. Her recommendations had emphasized the critical importance of professional leadership development or external management recruitment to maintain competitive performance. Thomas Bradley, representing pension fund investments that constituted significant ownership stakes in Ashford Industries, had expressed serious concerns about governance practices and succession planning adequacy. His fiduciary responsibilities required protection of investor interests through strategic oversight and performance accountability that the family's management approach had not provided. Bradley's assessment of company governance had identified systematic weaknesses in strategic planning processes and operational oversight that created financial risks and competitive vulnerabilities. His recommendations had emphasized the need for independent management assessment and professional development programs that would address identified capability gaps. His conversations with fellow board members had revealed growing consensus about the necessity for management transition planning that would protect investor interests while maintaining company competitive positioning. His analysis had concluded that continued family management without significant capability development would constitute unacceptable fiduciary risk. The most significant revelation of the evening had occurred during private conversations between board members in the mansion's library, where they had assumed their discussions would remain confidential. Their frank assessment of family leadership capabilities and company strategic positioning had provided definitive confirmation of concerns that had been developing throughout my observation period. The conversation had been initiated by Henley's direct question about the board's comfort level with Alexander's preparation for chief executive responsibilities. His inquiry had prompted detailed discussion about observed leadership capabilities and demonstrated business acumen that had revealed unanimous concerns about succession planning adequacy. Chen's response had been diplomatically brutal, acknowledging Alexander's enthusiasm while questioning his analytical capabilities and strategic thinking competence. Her assessment had emphasized the gap between his confidence and his demonstrated ability to understand complex business challenges or develop innovative solutions under competitive pressure. Bradley's contribution had focused on governance concerns and fiduciary responsibilities that would require board intervention if family leadership continued to demonstrate inadequate business capabilities. His analysis had emphasized the potential necessity for professional management recruitment or external strategic partnership development to protect investor interests. The discussion had evolved to encompass broader concerns about family culture and management philosophy that appeared incompatible with contemporary business requirements for collaborative leadership and professional accountability. Their assessment had identified systematic character issues that extended beyond technical knowledge gaps to fundamental unsuitability for business leadership responsibilities. The conversation had concluded with agreement about the necessity for confidential consultation with Richard Ashford regarding succession planning alternatives and professional development requirements. Their consensus had emphasized the urgency of addressing leadership transition issues before competitive positioning deteriorated further or investor confidence declined to levels that would threaten company stability. However, the most significant aspect of their discussion had been their complete unawareness of my presence in the adjacent room, where I had been arranging service equipment while their conversation provided comprehensive validation of strategic concerns that had guided my own assessment of family leadership capabilities. Their professional evaluation of family business competence had aligned precisely with observations that had accumulated throughout my period of anonymous service within their household. Their concerns about character traits and decision-making patterns had confirmed strategic vulnerabilities that would require immediate intervention to prevent systematic damage to company performance and competitive positioning. Later that evening, after the final guests had departed and the family had retired to their respective quarters, I had spent several hours alone in the kitchen, processing the implications of everything I had observed and overheard during the reception. The convergence of evidence had created absolute clarity about the necessity for immediate action to prevent irreversible damage to Ashford Industries, and the thousands of families who depended on company success for their economic security. The board members' frank assessment had provided external validation of concerns that had been developing throughout my observation period. Their professional evaluation of family leadership capabilities had confirmed that my strategic assessment had been accurate and that intervention was not merely advisable but essential for protecting stakeholder interests and maintaining competitive performance. However, the evening had also provided crucial insight into the emotional and psychological dynamics that would shape the family's response to revelation of my true identity and role within company leadership. Their behavior during the reception had demonstrated character traits and defensive mechanisms that would influence their ability to adapt to transformed circumstances and accept guidance from someone they had systematically underestimated. The recognition had crystallized that my emergence would serve multiple strategic purposes beyond protecting company performance. The transformation would provide essential education about human worth and professional competence that could influence their future approach to organizational relationships and leadership development. The experience would challenge fundamental assumptions about social hierarchy and inherited authority that had shaped their approach to business management and interpersonal relationships. The decision to accelerate my transition timeline had been driven by recognition that continued delay would increase risk exposure, while potentially allowing further deterioration of company performance and stakeholder confidence. The board members' concerns had emphasized the urgency of addressing leadership transition issues before competitive challenges overwhelmed family management capabilities. However, the decision had also been influenced by growing awareness of my own professional development needs and career advancement opportunities that required emergence from anonymous service into acknowledged leadership responsibility. The skills and insights that had been developed during my observation period would provide strategic advantages only if applied within appropriate professional contexts that allowed meaningful impact on organizational performance. The following morning had required careful coordination to establish secure communication with Richard Ashford regarding acceleration of transition timeline and revelation protocols. Our communication had been conducted through encrypted channels that maintained confidentiality, while enabling detailed discussion of strategic considerations and implementation logistics. Richard's response to my assessment had revealed complex emotions regarding family leadership capabilities, combined with strategic pragmatism about business protection requirements. His acknowledgement of board member concerns had confirmed that external pressure was building for management transition planning regardless of family preferences or succession expectations. His agreement to accelerate timeline had been accompanied by detailed discussion about revelation strategy and family management approach that would minimize disruption while maximizing educational impact. His strategic thinking had encompassed both immediate transition requirements and long-term relationship dynamics that would influence family adaptation to transformed circumstances. The conversation had revealed Richard's own professional development needs regarding collaborative leadership and family relationship management. His recognition of systematic parenting failures and character development inadequacies had demonstrated willingness to accept responsibility while implementing corrective strategies that would address identified problems. His commitment to supporting my leadership authority while managing family emotional responses had provided essential foundation for successful transition implementation. His strategic approach would balance family relationship preservation with business performance protection through careful management of revelation timing and communication protocols. The coordination had also addressed practical considerations regarding transition logistics and organizational communication strategies that would maintain stakeholder confidence while implementing leadership changes. The approach would emphasize continuity of strategic direction while introducing management capabilities that would enhance competitive performance and operational excellence. The final weeks before revelation had required intensive psychological preparation for the complex emotional dynamics that would accompany transformation from anonymous service to acknowledged leadership authority. The experience would test character traits and emotional resilience that had been developed throughout my observation period while creating opportunities for growth and professional development. The preparation had involved systematic analysis of family personality types and defensive mechanisms that would influence their adaptation to dramatically altered circumstances. Their behavioral patterns had provided insights into psychological strategies that would facilitate constructive dialogue while minimizing destructive emotional responses that could compromise relationship preservation and collaborative potential. The approach had emphasized patience and educational guidance rather than retribution or emotional satisfaction from their discomfort. The transformation would serve strategic purposes related to business protection and organizational development, rather than personal vindication or psychological gratification from their obvious distress and embarrassment. The preparation had also addressed my own emotional responses to systematic mistreatment and the importance of maintaining professional composure during revelation and subsequent relationship management. The experience would require emotional intelligence and conflict resolution skills that would prove valuable for future leadership challenges within competitive business environments. The recognition that transformation would serve broader purposes related to organizational culture development and industry leadership standards had provided motivational foundation that transcended personal considerations. The impact would extend beyond immediate family education to encompass demonstration of authentic leadership principles and professional competence recognition that could influence broader business community approaches to talent development and organizational excellence. The decision point had been reached through systematic analysis and strategic planning rather than emotional reaction or personal frustration. The transformation would proceed according to carefully designed protocols that would maximize positive outcomes while minimizing relationship damage and organizational disruption. The moment of truth was approaching, and everyone involved would discover the true relationship between competence and authority, between character and leadership, and between assumptions and reality within competitive business environments that reward authentic capability over inherited privilege. The systematic development of strategic capabilities during my employment within the Ashford household had required careful coordination of multiple learning initiatives while maintaining the facade of domestic service responsibilities. The approach had transformed apparent limitation into unprecedented opportunity for comprehensive business education that exceeded traditional academic or professional development programs in scope and practical application. The foundation of my hidden development strategy had been established through recognition that the Ashford Mansion functioned as an informal business laboratory where strategic decisions were discussed, operational challenges were revealed, and competitive intelligence was inadvertently shared during private conversations. The family's assumption that household staff possessed neither interest nor capability to understand business matters had created unprecedented access to confidential information and strategic insights. My position within their household had provided daily exposure to board meeting preparations, investor communication strategies, and operational performance assessments that would have been inaccessible through conventional business education or industry networking. The conversations I observed during family dinners included detailed analysis of market positioning challenges, competitive threats, and strategic partnership opportunities that represented advanced case study material for hospitality industry management. The development approach had been designed to complement my existing European hospitality experience with comprehensive understanding of American business culture, regulatory environments, and market dynamics. The integration of theoretical knowledge with practical observation had created strategic insights that exceeded the capabilities typically developed through traditional career progression within single organizational contexts. However, the most valuable aspect of my hidden development program had been the opportunity to observe decision-making processes under various circumstances while remaining invisible to the participants. This unique perspective had provided unprecedented insight into how family dynamics influence business strategy, how personal preferences override analytical reasoning, and how privilege can create strategic blindness that threatens organizational effectiveness. The systematic documentation of these observations had created comprehensive understanding of organizational dysfunction patterns that would prove invaluable for implementing corrective strategies during my eventual emergence as company leadership. The experience had provided practical knowledge of management failure modes that are rarely acknowledged within business literature or academic curricula. The evening hours following my official duties had been dedicated to comprehensive analysis of information gathered during daily household operations. The approach had involved systematic documentation of strategic insights, competitive intelligence, and operational observations that would inform future business decision-making while building detailed understanding of industry dynamics and market positioning challenges. The family's habit of conducting business conversations in supposedly private areas had provided access to strategic planning discussions that revealed both opportunities and vulnerabilities within Ashford Industries' competitive positioning. Their assumption that confidential business matters could be discussed freely in the presence of household staff had created opportunities for strategic intelligence gathering that would have been impossible through conventional industry research or networking activities. The board meeting materials that required preparation and coordination for home-based executive sessions had provided comprehensive exposure to financial performance data, market analysis reports, and strategic planning documents that represented advanced business education unavailable through traditional academic programs. The access had enabled detailed understanding of hospitality industry trends, competitive dynamics, and operational challenges that determine success within contemporary market environments. The investor relations materials that required handling during preparation for family entertainment of business associates had revealed detailed information about company financial structure, ownership dynamics, and strategic partnership arrangements. This intelligence had provided comprehensive understanding of capital markets dynamics and investment decision-making processes that influence business development opportunities and competitive positioning strategies. The operational reports that were reviewed during family business discussions had exposed systematic inefficiencies and management failures that threatened company performance while remaining invisible to family members who lacked operational expertise. These observations had enabled identification of improvement opportunities that could generate significant competitive advantages through professional management and systematic operational optimization. The strategic planning documents that required coordination for executive sessions had revealed the extent to which family preferences influenced business decisions that should have been based on market analysis and competitive assessment. The documentation had provided crucial evidence of systematic strategic failures that would require immediate correction to prevent further deterioration of competitive positioning and financial performance. The maintenance of professional relationships within European hospitality circles had required careful coordination to ensure continued access to industry intelligence and strategic insights, while preserving confidentiality about my current circumstances. The approach had involved regular consultation with former colleagues and industry contacts through communication channels that maintained plausible explanations for my temporary absence from active professional engagement. The monthly video conferences with Elena Santos and her network of hospitality executives had provided ongoing exposure to European market trends and operational innovations that could be adapted for American market applications. These conversations had maintained my connection to cutting-edge industry developments while building strategic knowledge that would prove valuable for future business leadership responsibilities. The quarterly strategic planning sessions conducted with former colleagues who believed I was researching American hospitality markets had enabled continued development of analytical capabilities and strategic thinking skills. These collaborative exercises had maintained intellectual engagement while providing opportunities to apply European operational expertise to American market challenges and competitive dynamics. The participation in online industry forums and professional development programs had ensured continued exposure to contemporary management theories and operational best practices that were being implemented across global hospitality markets. The engagement had maintained professional currency while building knowledge of innovative approaches that could enhance Ashford Industries' competitive performance and operational effectiveness. The subscription to specialized industry publications and market research services had provided comprehensive understanding of hospitality industry trends, competitive positioning strategies, and emerging market opportunities. The analysis of this intelligence had enabled identification of strategic possibilities that remained invisible to Ashford Industries' current management, while building expertise in market assessment and strategic planning methodologies. The cultivation of relationships with American hospitality executives through professional association events and industry conferences had created opportunities for strategic networking that would prove valuable during my eventual emergence as company leadership. These connections had provided insights into American business culture and management practices, while establishing foundation for future partnership and collaboration opportunities. The transformation of household management responsibilities into strategic learning opportunities had required innovative approaches that enhanced operational efficiency while remaining invisible to family members who attributed successful outcomes to their superior planning and oversight. The methodology had created demonstration projects for operational excellence principles that could be scaled for business applications. The implementation of systematic quality control processes for household operations had provided practical experience with performance measurement and continuous improvement methodologies that are essential for competitive business environments. The approach had involved development of standardized procedures, quality metrics, and performance tracking systems that ensured consistent service delivery while identifying optimization opportunities. The coordination of vendor relationships and service provider management had created comprehensive understanding of supply chain dynamics and strategic partnership development that would prove essential for business leadership responsibilities. The experience had involved negotiation, contract management, and performance assessment activities that provided practical education in vendor management and operational coordination. The budget management and resource optimization activities that were necessary for efficient household operations had provided hands-on experience with financial analysis and cost control methodologies that are fundamental to business management success. The approach had involved strategic resource allocation, cost-benefit analysis, and efficiency optimization that demonstrated financial management capabilities. The staff coordination and training activities that were required for seamless household operations had provided practical experience with human resource management and organizational development principles. The approach had involved performance assessment, skill development, and team coordination that demonstrated leadership capabilities while improving overall operational effectiveness. The crisis management and problem-solving activities that arose from complex household operational challenges had provided valuable experience with strategic thinking and innovative solution development under pressure. These situations had required rapid analysis, creative problem-solving, and resource coordination that demonstrated management capabilities while ensuring successful outcomes. The strategic use of technology for enhancing household operational efficiency had provided opportunities to develop digital innovation capabilities while demonstrating potential applications for business process optimization. The approach had involved implementation of systematic data collection, analytical assessment, and performance optimization through technological solutions that remained invisible to family members. The development of comprehensive scheduling and coordination systems had enabled management of complex household logistics, while providing experience with project management and operational coordination technologies. The systems had improved efficiency while creating demonstration projects for business process optimization through strategic technology integration. The implementation of inventory management and resource tracking systems had provided practical experience with supply chain optimization and operational analytics that are essential for competitive business environments. The approach had involved data collection, trend analysis, and predictive planning that demonstrated strategic thinking capabilities while improving household operational effectiveness. The creation of quality assurance and performance measurement systems had enabled systematic assessment of service delivery while providing experience with operational analytics and continuous improvement methodologies. The systems had enhanced service quality while creating foundation for business process optimization through systematic performance measurement and strategic improvement implementation. The development of communication and coordination protocols had improved household operational efficiency, while providing experience with organizational communication strategies and team coordination methodologies. The approach had involved system design, implementation management, and performance optimization that demonstrated management capabilities applicable to business environments. The integration of financial tracking and budget optimization systems had provided comprehensive experience with financial analysis and resource management that would prove essential for business leadership responsibilities. The systems had improved cost-effectiveness while demonstrating strategic financial management capabilities through systematic analysis and optimization implementation. The systematic analysis of Ashford Industries' competitive positioning had been conducted through careful observation of family business discussions, combined with independent research and industry intelligence gathering. The approach had created comprehensive understanding of company strengths, vulnerabilities, and strategic opportunities that remained invisible to current management, while building foundation for future strategic planning initiatives. The assessment of operational efficiency opportunities had identified systematic improvements that could enhance competitive performance while reducing operational costs. The analysis had revealed management failures and process inefficiencies that represented significant opportunities for competitive advantage through professional management and operational optimization. The evaluation of market positioning strategies had identified potential improvements that could enhance customer satisfaction while strengthening competitive differentiation. The assessment had revealed strategic opportunities that remained unexploited due to management limitations, while building comprehensive understanding of market dynamics and competitive positioning requirements. The analysis of financial performance trends had identified concerning patterns that threatened long-term sustainability while revealing optimization opportunities that could improve profitability through professional financial management and strategic resource allocation. The assessment had provided foundation for strategic planning that would address identified vulnerabilities while capitalizing on market opportunities. The evaluation of organizational development needs had identified systematic improvements that could enhance employee satisfaction while improving operational effectiveness. The analysis had revealed human resource management failures that created strategic vulnerabilities while building understanding of organizational development principles and implementation strategies. The assessment of technology integration opportunities had identified potential improvements that could enhance operational efficiency while strengthening competitive positioning. The evaluation had revealed systematic failures to capitalize on technological innovation, while building comprehensive understanding of digital transformation strategies and implementation methodologies. The development of emotional resilience and strategic thinking capabilities had been essential for maintaining professional composure, while enduring systematic dismissal and casual cruelty from family members who remained unaware of my true identity and professional capabilities. The approach had involved psychological strategies that transformed apparent adversity into character strengthening and strategic advantage development. The practice of maintaining professional dignity while accepting undeserved treatment had provided valuable experience with emotional regulation and conflict management that would prove essential for business leadership responsibilities. The discipline had involved strategic thinking about long-term objectives, while managing immediate emotional responses to challenging interpersonal dynamics. The development of diplomatic communication strategies had enabled effective coordination with family members, while preserving necessary information security about my true identity and professional background. The approach had involved careful balance between cooperative service delivery and strategic information management that maintained operational effectiveness while protecting confidential aspects of my mission. The cultivation of observational skills and analytical thinking capabilities had enhanced my ability to assess character traits and decision-making patterns, while building comprehensive understanding of family dynamics and business culture. The discipline had involved systematic data collection and strategic analysis that created foundation for effective management of complex interpersonal relationships during eventual revelation and transition processes. The practice of strategic patience and long-term thinking had strengthened my ability to maintain focus on ultimate objectives while managing daily challenges and emotional provocations. The approach had involved consistent commitment to professional excellence, despite inadequate recognition, while building character traits that would prove essential for effective business leadership under competitive pressure. The development of empathy and understanding regarding privilege-related character limitations had enabled strategic approach to family education and development, rather than retributive response to their systematic mistreatment. The perspective had involved recognition of their psychological vulnerabilities and developmental needs, while maintaining professional boundaries and strategic focus on organizational objectives rather than personal satisfaction through their eventual discomfort and embarrassment. The phenomenon of institutional invisibility had transformed my position within the Ashford household from apparent disadvantage into extraordinary strategic advantage that provided unprecedented access to confidential business intelligence and organizational dynamics. The family's systematic failure to recognize household staff as capable of understanding complex business matters had created a unique opportunity for comprehensive strategic analysis of company operations, competitive positioning, and management effectiveness. The psychological dynamics that render service personnel invisible to privileged individuals operate according to well-established patterns of social hierarchy and cognitive bias that have profound implications for organizational security and strategic planning. The Ashford family's complete confidence in their privacy while conducting sensitive business discussions in the presence of household staff demonstrated fundamental misunderstanding of information security principles and competitive intelligence vulnerabilities. Their assumption that domestic workers possessed neither interest nor capability to comprehend sophisticated business concepts had created systematic exposure of strategic information that would have been carefully protected within traditional corporate environments. The casual nature of their confidential discussions revealed not only specific business intelligence, but also decision-making processes, analytical capabilities, and strategic thinking limitations that provided comprehensive assessment of management competence and organizational effectiveness. The strategic advantage derived from this invisibility extended beyond mere information gathering to encompass detailed understanding of family personality dynamics, conflict resolution approaches, and leadership styles that would prove essential for managing future organizational transitions and relationship development. The opportunity to observe authentic behavior patterns without performance modification provided insights into character traits and decision-making processes that are typically concealed during formal business interactions. The cumulative effect of sustained observation within this privileged environment had been the development of comprehensive strategic intelligence regarding Ashford Industries' operational challenges, competitive vulnerabilities, and management limitations that would have required years of conventional industry research to obtain through traditional means. The access had enabled detailed understanding of organizational culture, performance standards, and strategic priorities that remained invisible to external observers, while providing foundation for targeted improvement initiatives. The recognition that institutional invisibility could be leveraged as competitive advantage, rather than accepted as limitation, represented fundamental shift in perspective about the relationship between social position and strategic opportunity. The experience had demonstrated how systematic underestimation creates access opportunities that can be strategically exploited by individuals who possess the analytical capabilities to recognize and utilize privileged information effectively. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.